Welcome to Smash Fiction, the podcast where we pit two or more fictional characters against one another in a battle of strength, wits, or illusions, Michael, and see if we can figure out where the lighter fluid came from. This week, Nico versus Zatanna. Thank you all for coming. Make yourself comfortable as best as you can. I know that seating is somewhat limited around the living room, and there are quite a few of you. Be sure to grab some pink lemonade and Hydrox cookies from the kitchen. Also, there are name tags by the front door. I know we're all family, but some of us are pretty distant, and I must admit, I don't know all your faces. Anywho, so glad to see you all. I wish it could be under happier circumstances. As you can see from my name tag, I'm Dane Mills Hallowell. I'm a witch, specifically a charmed one, or at least I used to be. Usually there's three of us, but right now there's two. The first three charmed ones were sisters, Piper, Prue, and Phoebe, and then one of them met an unfortunate end and had to be replaced. So they tracked down their long-lost half-sister to fill the open slot because, as you all know, you need a trio of witches related by blood in order to access the full power of the Book of Shadows. Well, unfortunately, that wasn't the last time that sort of thing happened. Not by a long shot. From time to time, you know, one of us gets shot by a dark lighter or erased from the timeline, or, as happened this most recent time, to me this time, permanently transformed into a potted philodendron that is still nonetheless capable of speech and limited movement. Thankfully. Could have been a lot worse. Remember Douglas Hallowell? Oh, poor Douglas. Anyway, I'm still conscious and capable of speech and wearing a name tag, but sadly I'm no longer connected to the power of three. And we need a new witch to fill my spot and serve as a charmed one to protect the world from evil. And that's why we called you all here. We've gone through so many witches over the years that for a while now our roster hasn't had the strongest or most dedicated witches. Those all got used up quite a while ago, so this time we decided to use one of those ancestry family tree websites to find all the distant Hallowell cousins we haven't contacted before and see which one of you would be the best replacement for me as the newest charmed one. And I'm happy to report that there are two pretty impressive frontrunners in the bunch tonight, so the rest of you better bring your A game. The first one, the one in the tailcoat and fishnets over there by the record player, who was showing off some very impressive card tricks before while we were waiting for the last of you to arrive, is my ninth-ish cousin, I think, a few times removed. Zatanna, am I saying that right? Zatanna Zatara, that's one heck of a name. She's part of a superhero group. What were they called? Hold on, let me check these note cards. Oh, that's right. The Justice League. Is that right? Interesting. Justice League. And in the other corner over there, the one in the black clothing who's wearing earbuds is an even more distant cousin. We had to go back quite a ways to find a common ancestor, but we did. Her name is Nico Minoru. Can she hear me, Nico? She's probably just really into her music. Let's not disturb her. It says right here that she's also a superhero with the alias Sister Grimm. Says on my next note card that she doesn't use that name anymore and finds it embarrassing, and I probably should not mention it. And her superhero group seems to be called the Runaways? Oh, no, wrong, sorry. They were a group of runaways. Apparently their name is... They don't have a name. Fascinating. So, stiff competition you all have tonight. The other two currently living charmed ones that are not potted plants are going to start interviewing you all one by one to hear about your qualifications alphabetically. So, sorry Zatanna, hope you didn't have any plans tonight. So, we've got some time to kill for a bit. Anyone who's interested, let's go up to the attic and have a look through that Book of Shadows. There's some wild stuff in there. If one of you wouldn't mind picking me up. Oh, thank you Zatanna. Nico, are you joining us? Can she hear me? That kid really needs to take out those earbuds once in a while. With that, Zatanna picked up the friendly potted plant and carried him up the stairs. As she did so, he continued to speak. Why, oh why did he continue to speak? At this point, he was just listing off trivia, something about the Book of Shadows being one of the most extensive books of benevolent magic in the greater San Francisco area. But by now, Zatanna's mind was on other things. The Book of Shadows was indeed a truly remarkable item, and its previous wielders had saved the world with it on multiple occasions. She couldn't wait to see it. She knew that just being in the presence of such a powerful artifact of good magic would be overwhelming for someone as attuned to the unseen world as she was. That book deserved to be in better hands than this current generation of witches. Whatever it took, she would see that by the end of the night, she was the one who would be selected to be the next charmed one. Even if it meant more instances of carrying this talking plant up and down stairs and listening to him go on and on. The assembled crowd of distant Hallowell cousins arrived at the entrance to the attic. This was the moment. Zatanna opened the door and entered. There it was, sitting on a pedestal at the center of the room, a thick book with a greenish leather-bound cover and a prominent triquetra symbol on the front. But something was wrong. That feeling that Zatanna was expecting, it wasn't there. It was just a book. She raised a hand and wiggled her fingers. Lepsid Sashulech. Sorry, I'm going to do that one more time. These are really hard.
Yeah.
Lepsid Snashule. What had appeared to be the Book of Shadows shimmered and then vanished. It was an illusion, she said. So where's the real book? I'm a philodendron, said Dane Mills Hallowell, so my ability to assist you here is limited. Zatanna set down the plant and raced down the stairs, pushing her way through the crowd of her distant relatives. Back in the living room, still sitting on a recliner in the corner, wearing earbuds and staring off into space, was Nico. Zatanna twirled a hand in Nico's direction. Oyu, fi roi na shule cuff fo. Oh, sorry. It's tough. The girl-shaped blob of magic that had been sitting in the chair evaporated into sparkles. Minoru, said Zatanna under her breath. She was about to get into her Uber when Zatanna caught up to her. Hey, hot topic, said Zatanna. You got something that doesn't belong to you. Now that's a ridiculous statement, said Nico. By definition, if I have something, it belongs to me. Hand over the book. You know as well as I do that the Book of Shadows can't be touched by someone evil, so even if I do have it, clearly I'm meant to have it. You really think that group of goobers back in the mansion are going to use it as well as I would? Regardless, it's theirs. If you want to use it, you need to join their ranks the proper way. Even if a system isn't perfect, you have to try to work within it. You can't just ignore the laws because you think you're right. It's worked for me so far, said Nico. All right, I'm done talking forwards, said Zatanna. Count Makib Delp! With that, Nico's entire outfit, all the many layers of black clothing, suddenly turned to plaid.
Oh,
I can do a lot worse than that if you don't hand over the book, said Zatanna. So can I, said Nico. Wedgie. Two superheroic masters of word magic have gotten into a fight over which one of them deserves to wield the Book of Shadows. You know, the Book of Shadows. You guys ever watch that show Charmed?
Yes.
That was a good show sometimes, right? Anyway, I don't believe in magic. I believe that language is the real magic. And besides, I'd rather write a bunch of dumb jokes than research another freaking comic book match. And that is why I am human. And I need to be loved. Sorry, that is why I, Claire Mulcairn, will be your judge this week. Representing Team Zatanna are Megan Bob.
Now for my next trick, I'm going to cut Team Nico's arguments in half.
And special guest, Sharon Schneiderman.
I don't need a spell for you, hun.
Representing Nico are Miles Schneiderman.
I spend karma.
And Liz Logan.
Witch, sandwich. Those were 3 different witches. English is fun. Thanks for having me.
As we said,
God.
Liz demonstrating once again that language is the real magic.
Yeah, hooray for homonyms.
In order to see who's going first this week, I have a little challenge for the advocates.
Oh, no.
We've been doing this show for a little while now, and this is by no means the first battle that we've had between 2 self-identifying witches or wizards. All right, advocates, put your phones down. How many one-on-one battles have we had that are either a witch versus a witch or a wizard versus a wizard? There are a couple that are on the fence, so I'll say up front as a way of letting you know where I'm drawing the line. Orko versus Rincewind is in. Skeletor versus Mumra is out.
Okay.
Got it.
Apart from
All
that,
right,
the rest
fine.
are all pretty clear. All right, so the way we're going to do this, Team Zatanna pick a number, and then
Okay.
Team Nico is going to choose higher or lower or same. And if they guess right, they win. All right, so Team Zatanna, what's your number?
Our number is 5.
No, that's what I said first.
Well,
You
no,
said
but I
before, Megan Bob.
I think higher.
Team Nico says higher?
Sure.
I say higher.
Okay, so I'm going to list them off. We got Gandalf Dumbledore, Maleficent Wicked Witch,
Oh.
Dresden Constantine, Constantine,
Jesus Christ.
Doctor
Yup.
Strange versus Voldemort, Hermione versus Willow, Weathervax versus McGonagall, and Orko versus Rincewind. The correct answer is 7, so Team Nico will be going first.
Whoa.
Team Nico, hopefully your opening arguments will be more respectful of my time than the first season of your TV show.
Ah,
Oh, that's so mean.
yeah, fuck you. I haven't even seen it yet.
It's way bad. It's real bad.
Well, you didn't like Sucker Punch either, so how good could your opinion actually be?
You're already racking up points in my favor, Miles. Sucking up to the judge early, I see.
Speak for me.
Nico and Zatanna might be the most similar to each other characters we've ever had on this show, and we once did a match with 4 people named Dracula. They're the daughters of dead wizards. They came by their powers genetically. They live in California. They have snarky senses of humor and a tendency to charm, flirt, or lay a lip lock on the nearest cute guy. They wear elaborate, mostly black costumes. They appear in issues of comics that portray house music with the onomatopoeia oons, oons, oons. I could go on. But the most glaring similarity is that both of these characters can create basically any magical effect they choose, with the sole exception of bringing the dead back to life by saying a few magic words. Both characters' spellcrafting is limited only by their creativity. If they can communicate, they can fuck supremely with the nature of time, space, and reality, not to mention mind, soul, and I guess power, because Nico and Zatanna are basically gothy infinity gauntlets in flattering outfits. Granted, Nico's magic works a little differently than Zatanna's, by which I mean she's not really sure how it works, and neither is anyone else. Her parents were dark wizards of the Minoru clan who used to wield the Staff of One, a magical instrument that, according to Nico's mom, made the dread Dormammu tremble. If you don't know Marvel Comics, that's basically like saying it made Twitter a safe environment for reasonable political discourse. Until the staff decided to absorb itself into Nico's body for no apparent reason. It allows her to cast spells based on any word or phrase she utters, but she can't utter the same word or phrase twice. Fortunately, Nico was able to solve that problem via the cunning use of foreign languages and synonyms. It's kind of that easy with Nico's magic, guys. There aren't really any clearly defined rules or rigidity to it the way there are with Zatanna's. If Zatanna's magic is like GURPS, requiring her to rigorously apply her intellect to figure out all the backwards words she needs to know, Nico's magic is more like Savage Worlds, a very loose framework that allows you to do basically anything you can come up with, better suited to Nico's creative, adaptive, improvisational mindset towards spellcasting. Only in this version of Savage Worlds, you can abuse the system like it's fucking Palladium and get about as OP as you damn well feel like.
Now, we're sure Team Zatanna has a bunch of examples of the great feats of magic she's performed, or long hashtag absentee Dan lists of the enemies she's defeated. And that's great. I could counter with a few of my own, if I really wanted to. Like the magical ice wolf Nico conjured with the spell Winter is Coming that helped her defeat the actual son of Satan. But, nah. I'd rather tell you about some of her other cool shit. Not the ones that were the most powerful or most helpful in defeating her biggest baddies. Nah. I was thinking more like the Runaways' very first battle against costume criminals after the death of the Pride, where they make mincemeat of a lame-ass group of supervillains known as the Wrecking Crew. Nico finds herself up against a member of the Wrecking Crew whose name is originally the Wrecker. How does she respond to this nobody with a threat level of no threat whatsoever? She uses the spell Disassemble to literally take him apart. Like, the street is covered in a bunch of thinly sliced The Wrecker steaks. It's okay, she says. He'll come back together in an hour or two. Probably. I mean, what would you think would happen to someone who witnesses another young girl being murdered? Someone who needs to give blood sacrifices? Someone who's actually happy about getting her period? And feels like she has more in common with zombies and vampires than the others her age. You start to get closer and closer to the edge when it comes to morality. It didn't help when the Runaways went back in time and Nico was captured by an ancestral Minoru named Witchbreaker, who spent basically the rest of the story giving Nico trial by torture training in the ways of her magic, which resulted in Nico being able to fly at will and gave her a powered-up version of the Staff of One. That story ends with the gang having captured the time-traveling parents of their dead friend Gert, who are from a year or two earlier and have just discovered that Gert is dead in their future. When Carolina suggests that Nico erase their memories, she says, "Why would I want to do that?" and uses a spell called The Show Must Go On, which lets them keep their knowledge of the future, but prevents them from saying or doing anything about it. Their short, useless lives will play out exactly like they did before, Nico assures her team, but inside, they'll never stop screaming.
Yeah, and this is before she's captured by Arcade and made to fight 15 other teenagers in a month-long battle royale-esque fight to the death, during which she loses her arm, bleeds to death, comes back all pissed off and powered up thanks to a last breath healing spell, and buries 2 people alive. She goes on to receive further training in her magic by her recently returned from hell ex-boyfriend Alex Wilder, as well as the aforementioned son of Satan. The end result of all this is a Nico Minoru who has walked on the dark side and liked it, who flies around effortlessly smashing demons with the blood magic that is her birthright. And Nico, along with the rest of the Runaways, has always been the kind of person who refuses to be taken by the authorities and will resist capture, especially at the hands of superheroes, by any means necessary.
Think of Nico like a hard rock album. Lyrics, song titles, and all come to life. In Avengers Arena number 12, she uses the spell Thunderstruck, which, well, strikes someone with an energy source not unlike lightning. So let's take a look at what other fun spells she could use off of AC/DC's album The Razor's Edge. Fire your guns?
Oh, yeah.
Rock your heart out?
I like that one.
Shot of love?
Sure.
And, God forbid, got you by the balls.
Oh!
Do you see where I'm going with this?
Yeah, Zatanna has been through her share of shit, but she remains at least a decently adjusted person who just wants the fight to be over so she can go home to a bottle of wine, a bubble bath, and perhaps a tastefully whipped cream adorned Bruce Wayne. While she is immensely skilled, she doesn't have Nico's survival instincts, grit, or sheer rage. Nico's anger and even her confusion fuels her magic. She almost always does the horrible thing without hesitation and agonizes over the morality of it later. Zatanna doesn't have that well to draw on. While she has actually lost the use of her powers before because of a lack of self-confidence or guilt, such as when she felt guilty over wiping Batman's memory during Identity Crisis, she never powers up from her usual state. She's at 10 most of the time, sure, in more ways than one, but she can't go to 11, and those who can have demonstrated the ability to take her out. When she is subjected to powerful and ruthless magical attacks, Zatanna tends to go down for at least a little while, whether she's being roofied by magic roses, transformed into a puppet, or suffering from a damaged throat. She always does eventually come back to defeat them, but only because they continue doing villain things and they give her an opening. Nico Minoru is not a villain. She's not a hero either. She wants you to leave her alone. And she has zero reservations about taking shortcuts that Zatanna would never consider.
I don't care if Zatanna is friends with Swamp Thing, okay? The difficulty of maintaining that relationship isn't going to translate into having enough stamina to deal with Nico's energy levels. In fact, as the fight progresses, Zatanna will only get weaker and Nico will only get stronger. Zatanna can get to a point where she has used too much magic and she becomes physically weaker. Thanks to Nico's blood magic, the more she is hurt, the stronger she becomes. Which is basically any of us when we realize we are starting to lose an argument and really start pulling out the bullshit.
I've never done that. What are you talking about?
Sure, Zatanna can get in on this blood magic too, using her own blood to write spells on the ground or whatever, but, Nico can manipulate that and use Zatanna's blood against her as well. She's got a lot of experience. Zatanna should probably just stick to pulling bunnies out of top hats.
Nico and Zatanna are unbelievably similar, but what sets them apart is that somewhere deep inside herself, Nico is still broken and bleeding, which would kind of suck for her, except for the fact that when it comes to blood magic, the bigger the sacrifice, the greater the fuck you.
Very well done, Team Nico. Team Zatanna, the impossible isn't a limitation, it's an invitation, and so I invite you to make your opening argument.
Who does the Justice League call when they run into magical happenings and mystical malarkey? The world's greatest magician, Anataza. Sorry, I've been reading too much backwards shit for this fucking research. I mean Zatanna. Nico won't know what hit her when Zatanna displays her knowledge, power, and fully developed prefrontal cortex. Zatanna is a mature, intelligent, and knowledgeable woman who not only knows what she wants, great casual sex, a bubble bath, and wine, but also has the magical abilities, both inherent and learned, to make things happen. Zatanna is a homo magi.
Same.
Oh, so good.
Okay. Zatanna is a homo magi, a race of people who have magic coursing through their veins. Her former boy toy, John Constantine, states, "That girl creates so many ripples through the mystic world that every spook knows about it when she goes to the loo." The spell powers of Zatanna are typically called forth when she states words and phrases backwards to make effects happen. The more exact the wording of the spell, the more powerful it is. So Zatanna uses flashcards to learn new words and phrases for spells that she can cast as many fucking times as she wants. She can speak Spanish, French, American Sign Language, or write in blood to make a spell happen. When she was still a child, she uses a speaking spell to cage and stop a thief and murderer in her own braces. Zatanna is seen teleporting herself and others across the world, dimensions, and even time without needing to know where it is. When 5 douchebag witch hunters attempt to kill her, she sends their dumbasses back to 1692 to be burned at the stake. Brother Knight, a sociopathic, magic-using murderer, describes Zatanna as resourceful and completely without fear. She is the self-appointed guardian of San Francisco, one of the most magical cities in the world. The one time that she sees that she is negatively affected by fear, she goes to a therapist and figures her shit out like a fucking adult. While I know she might have some issues in the love department, Zatanna is relatively well adjusted. The same cannot be said for Nico, who has so many issues with her family and past that she could start a subscription.
Sorry. That's funny.
That one snuck up on me.
That's pretty good. Yeah, no, that was like a delayed reaction pun.
It's one of those jokes like a samurai cuts you in half, and then you're like, that wasn't a joke, and then it was it? And then you suddenly fall over, you're like, oh, it was!
That's right. That's exactly what it was.
Although Zatanna's parents are dead, they died protecting her, and her father often still helps her as a ghost. Zatanna's ancestry includes a sorceress mother, master magician father, Leonardo da Vinci, and Nostradamus. While her magical bloodline is a large part of who she is also trained in martial arts and an expert illusionist. Zatanna disarms a knife attack barehanded and takes out 3 trained witch hunters with a scarf and a top hat. With her father's training in magicianship, she's learned how to slip bonds, use the art of misdirection, and improvise escapes in many different situations. The extent of Zatanna's magical abilities are not limited to just spells. She also creates explosive liquids and healing salves, understands the mystic world from her constant and consistent immersion in a magical city and realms with powerful foes. Zatanna uses effigies, voodoo dolls, wands, and many other magic items to destroy and dispose of enemies. This knowledge will help her to know that touching Nico's staff of no one important could be potentially harmful. She also collects favors from magical creatures and uses them for later help. Such entities as Fuseli, the demon lord of nightmares, and a fairy that she rescued. She also can control small objects with the wave of her hand, such as the action figures in a store window. In encounters, Zatanna defeats a variety of adversaries in many different ways. Whether she needs to turn some cat collars into a fish, freeze a gestational embodiment of a real dragon, or speak witty palindromes such as ogre flog a golfer go, Zatanna thinks on her feet. She destroys 3 harpies by dousing them in holy water from a pool. In a fight against some thieves in Vegas, Zatanna uses her magic to create giant hands to shuffle the villains like a deck of cards. In a battle against a group of were-hyenas, she ends their curse with one spell, returning them to very confused humans. She will go as far as it takes to keep others safe, even using a mind wipe on fellow members of the Justice League. She follows a thief from Limbo Town across realities and dimensions to retrieve a stolen book of magic, eventually dragging the thief to a dimension where she could punch him so hard that he's knocked out for a few hundred years. Zatanna has had her throat cut and crushed, been shot and stabbed, and either heals her injuries with a spell or salve. Those harpies she fought shot fires from hell into her mouth, and Zatanna uses her finger and ash to write Erif Tuo on the ground to put out the fire. Zatanna is the hero that we need when everything gets all magicked up. Now, can I have some wine in a bath?
You could totally have some wine in the bath.
Later, honey. Later.
Malud, This is what we in the fake legal profession like to refer to as a no-brainer, or non-cerebri if you're feeling fancy and bad at Latin, as I often am. Nico Minoru is no magical layabout, but if this is a question of which character will stomp, then I am afraid Zatanna will be the stomper, and Nico the stompee. I myself am something of a Nico fan and this hurts, but as my nan's cross-stitch always says, old age and treachery will beat youth and exuberance. Nico is 18, with only a few years of experience under her belt. The vast majority of this experience is hands-on, apart from some light tutoring with Damon Hellstrom. She is therefore a largely improvisational fighter who is at the mercy of whatever she can think of in the moment. Unfortunately for Nico, the nature of her magic has a built-in handicap that makes practice risky. Any practice spell casting means that the spell has already been used and cannot be replicated. She must reinvent the wheel every time she is in combat. She has used the spell Freeze. The next time she wishes to stop an opponent, she must think of an alternative to that. It is, we admit, an exquisite plot device. What a terrible way to win fights. Zatanna has not only had years of practice and spells that can reliably be replicated, her repertoire of spells is only expanding. Nico's is only ever shrinking. If Nico happens to recast a spell she has used before, the spell backfires in humorous fashion, or does nothing at all.
In less than humorous fashion.
Now, the Staff of One is dope AF, Your Honor. We offer no dispute on that point. However, it does not have perfect understanding of Nico's intentions while casting. In a 2017 Runaways issue, she asked for a doctor in the house to fix a chest wound, and it brings a podiatrist. In the Runaways arc Dead Wrong, Nico casts Scatter, and the staff physically scatters their enemies and, quote, emotionally scatters the Runaways, causing them to withdraw from one another. 2 points to consider. Nico did not know that the staff had done this. She does not always know what the staff will affect. Because supernatural artifacts, they're magically capricious. God damn it, you people didn't laugh at my lucky charm. Fine.
I didn't. That's another one that slipped under the radar. God damn it.
That was even sneakier.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was sneaky. I didn't get it. I was like, what?
Until I pointed it out, which is how you know it's funny.
That was the jokes
All
you
right.
have to explain are the best kind.
Secondly, what kind of Oxford English Dictionary twaddle is going on that the staff would literally scatter one set of combatants and metaphorically scatter another? Or perhaps we consider when Nico casts Zombie Knot.
Oh, I'm so hoping you were going to bring this up.
To turn zombies back into non-zombies. And yet the staff intuits that what Nico would really like is a giant tangled knot of zombies that forms one giant mecha zombie. The staff, much like a dog when you drop a piece of food, seems to enjoy pretending that it only partly understands Nico's words. Leave it? Did you say leave it? Because I'm sure I heard eat it. You know what? I'm gonna eat it just to be on the safe side. Seriously, staff, that is some bullshit. I realize that the Staff of One is not on trial here, but Your Honor, the staff is coasting on its charm, and we would be remiss not to point that out. Nico has only fought a very limited number of magic users, about 3 of them. That limited experience with other magic users means that she's not used to being hit back with magic, nor does she know much about other kinds of magic. And Zatanna's magic is nothing like her magic. Even in her fight with Damon Hellstrom, Nico only gets in 1 hit involving a Game of Thrones reference, and then he comes back at her. Landing a hit on the Son of Satan is impressive, of course, but it's not as impressive as having been in 10 magic user battles and winning 7 of them, or 20 and winning 15. My point, Your Honor, besides showing off my ability to do simple percentages, is that 3 brief instances of a magical stalemate is not enough to conclude that Nico is capable of winning against an experienced fighter like Zatanna. There are 2 ways that fights with Nico tend to go. She is backed up by the cavalry, who either weaken the enemy first, as with the Murder World kids, or swoop in to clean up. Nico is not confident enough, or inclined to fight on her own. She is inexperienced, unfamiliar with fighting magic users, unused to fighting on her own and has a staff that's playing by its own rules. I'm afraid, Milud, that our recommendation must be to rule in favor of Zatanna, and perhaps let Nico off with some community service hours.
All right, guys, it's that time. It's time for rebuttals. Team Nico, remember, just like your spells, if you repeat a joke you've already made before, it's probably not going to work very well.
That's true.
I instantly tried to think of a joke that I've made before so I could make it again, just to do it.
I want to say one thing right off the bat, because there's a couple things that I feel like didn't get mentioned or haven't been mentioned so far in this podcast. As per our discussion, we are using Nico from a very specific point in her career, that being around about the end of Avengers Undercover. Whatever the weird shit is that's happening with the Runaways Volume 3 series doesn't really apply, and I don't know what it's even doing, because among other things, she has simply lost one of her most valuable magical things that she does, which is the Witch Arm. The Witch Arm is like the magical replacement for the arm she lost in Avengers Arena that appeared when she cast her heal spell on herself. It allows her to cast spells without even making incantations. And it's commented by Alex Wilder when he's training her that it's actually more powerful than the staff itself. This version of Nico doesn't necessarily have to rely on the staff.
I grant you that we are not using that part of it. However, the fact that her magic is not always under her control and that sometimes she gets overwhelmed by it or it does things that she's like, wait a second, whoa there, boy, what's going on?
Yeah,
that is a thing that happens to her also in the Avengers Undercover.
It's something that still happens occasionally, but that she's been increasingly getting better at. And if you notice something about Nico, it's that she's actually an incredibly fast learner. Now, you might be able to attribute this to the fact that the two stories where she's actually spending time being trained and learning about her powers were both cut short because the sales were bad. But that doesn't change the fact that within the space of 6 to 10 issues in both those stories, she gets way better at using her powers, and the randomness factor and her screwing up doesn't happen as often. So she's going to get better at using her powers over the course of this fight.
I agree with you that she is getting more powerful. And I actually think that if she were the same age and had had her powers as long as Zatanna and had as much practice, I think that Nico would win. I just don't think that Nico at this point in her life has enough experience and practice to win.
Well, because even at the same age, Zatanna had more experience with magic than Nico does now.
Parlor magic. Oh, bird.
Zatanna needs all that experience because the way she does magic involves her memorizing flashcards, and she's got to spend all this time practicing and making sure she's getting it right. Nico's magic, she has more training than she's ever had before, so in Undercover, she can just fly around and beat demons to death with her magic fists, but her magic also allows her to do whatever comes to the top of her head, which gives her an edge in surprise and creativity, and I just think that overcomes her lack of experience in this case.
All of those palindromes, none of those were practice spells. Zatanna does things off the top of her head. What she was using with the flashcards was memorizing new words so she could have more powerful, more controlled spells.
One of Zatanna's big weaknesses is being around magical realms that are evil, like hell or something like that. Nico's staff originates from some dark-ass thing where even freaking Dormammu, who's basically the leader of the Dark Realms or something, is afraid of. And Zatanna has a hard time dealing with beings of magical, godlike power, and Dormammu would definitely qualify of that category. So the fact that even he is afraid of the power potential that Nico can reach with the Staff of One, that's a big Achilles heel for
and
Zatanna.
Nico's beaten giants and wizards and stuff.
That Dormammu is afraid of the staff, not Nico wielding it, just the fact that it's very powerful. Whether or not Nico can actually do all the things that the staff is capable of, actually she can't yet. She's still too young, because one of the things they talked about is that she's not actually able to harness all of its power. And they even comment she's actually very young and probably shouldn't even be using it because the magic is so powerful. And she mostly manages to control it.
Why did the staff go to her, Bob? Why did the staff absorb itself into her body?
The staff knew that she was hurting because her parents are shitty. The staff was being her mom.
Your argument kind of assumes that at some point you've learned everything you have to learn and plateau, but literally what superhero is like that? So she just keeps learning and learning and learning, and she will keep learning and learning and learning.
Yeah,
and
she will.
There is no real mark of where she's gained all the power.
Far into it, though. She's like 2 years into her journey.
I want to say something counter to you saying that Zatanna has an issue with demons and stuff. She fights demons all the time. She fights things from hell. She might have problems being in hell, but I think that's kind of the point of hell, is to maybe be unpleasant.
I have one question, if you guys don't mind, a clarifying question, because I feel like this is very important. What can the witch arm do?
Claire, I would love to answer that question for you. Unfortunately, Marvel has made it very difficult for me to do so. What the witch arm has been demonstrated as doing is allowing Nico to cast spells when she doesn't have the staff on her.
Okay. What sorts of spells has she done with this?
Mostly they have been like punchy spells where it's like she punches something and there's a big boom of magical energy, shit like that. It seems to allow her to like blast things.
Okay.
It's very unclear.
But pretty much thus far, largely like attacky spells, right? Like
yes.
blasty attacky spells?
Yes.
Okay.
I would almost describe it as like if an Iron Man arm, but powered by magic instead of science.
Okay, cool. That is sufficient. So moving on, Team Zatanna. Time to pull some bullshit out of your hat.
I mean, we're keeping all those rabbits in there. There's definitely some poop in there now. Boy, you guys really harped on how much trauma she's been through. How is having a traumatic adolescence going to make her good at fighting? All it does is, like, imagine if she had a good childhood and then also got to practice fighting, but not under, like, soul-crushing conditions. I'm not sure what you're arguing.
When I talk about her experiences, what I'm kind of getting at is not so much that it makes her fight better, but that it makes her fight and cast her spells differently. Nico can be extremely ruthless. She can pull out spells that Zatanna would not consider using against anyone but the most powerful threats. Nico pulls them out for fucking nobodies. She's going to have an element of surprise in that she's willing to go to certain depths that Zatanna will not. And in addition to that, the sort of edginess of her character in this circumstance makes her more likely to do absolutely anything she can to get away from a superhero authority figure.
That's just because she's a child. That doesn't mean she's going to do anything more intelligent. That'd be like trying to fight somebody older and being like, hey, I'm witty because I'm 18 and I'm indestructible, but oh shit,
well, it's
you're
like,
old enough to know better.
It's like tapping into the dark side. You know, it's like
That's what being a teenager is.
Your hate has made you powerful. I mean, that's what Nico does.
I think of it this way. Think of Zatanna, like a lot of her abilities and magic. Think of her as an illusionist. Most of her skills, spells, whatever, are based on misdirection and stuff. Think of Nico as a teenager in her parents' garage spraying WD-40 in a metal can and setting it on fire. She wants to cause shit to blow up, and she'll get way more straight to the point than Zatanna ever will. I mean, what kind of illusion is she gonna cast on Nico who can see straight through her bullshit as well?
At 12 years old, Zatanna was magically cast onto Mount Everest with just a set of robes where she happened to run into Black Canary and they rappelled down the side of the fucking mountain when she's a child. She didn't use magic to escape that. When she deals with the puppet maker, her eyes glow yellow and she is willing to rip his heart out if her father's magic wasn't protecting that puppet.
Right. It just takes longer and she's a little bit less willing to go there. She might go there eventually, but Nico will go there right away.
And she thinks about her spells that she casts way deeper than Nico ever does. Would you rather have someone uninhibited or inhibited?
Yes, Nico does tend to go full bore no matter the threat level, which means that she's used up a lot of her super powerful spells already because she just goes, okay, well, I'm going to go to 11.
Synonyms, Bob. Synonyms are a wonderful thing.
She is getting some of them, yeah. But I mean, even with Damon, she takes him out, she gets like a hit in, and then he's back up again.
That fight never finished. The only part of the fight we saw was her clocking him.
And the other magic person she fights is Marie Laveau, who she also, she decks her a bit, and then Marie Laveau still, decks her back.
I mean, she's fought a bunch of people. She was able to successfully talk down a rampaging magical giant from crushing the city of Los Angeles. She encased Ultron in a bunch of diamond. She's had some fights.
I can defeat Nico with a roll of duct tape around her mouth.
Well, no.
Nico has nothing on actual demons. She's not going to get the one-up on Zatanna.
She went to a demon fight club and started beating the crap out of them.
And then she got really sad.
Yes, she gets sad afterward.
All right. Great job, everyone. Every great magic trick consists of 3 parts. The first part is the pledge. The magician shows you something ordinary and tells you that it's real, unaltered, and normal. But of course it isn't. The second is called the turn. The magician takes the ordinary object and makes it do something extraordinary. But that's not enough, because every truly great magic trick has a third act, the hardest part, the part we call the lightning round.
Oh, God, I saw it coming, and I was so happy. I was like, give it to me. Give it to me right now.
As Nico and Zatanna fling spells back and forth at each other, warping the city around them into a mind-bending, surreal landscape, suddenly they're interrupted by a sound. Nico, who up until that moment had been floating in the air, suddenly dropped to the ground. "What was that?" said Nico. She looked up and saw a word floating above her in courier script. It said, grounded. Zatanna raised a hand and began to summon a fireball when, above Zatanna had appeared another word. Extinguished. That sound, is that? Zatanna looked up to the sky. Typing? Another word appeared. This one said, entrance. The clouds parted, and suspended in a shaft of golden light, a wheeled office chair descended from the heavens. Floating next to that chair was a computer, and seated in that chair was a middle-aged African-American woman in a smart blue business suit. "Hello," she said. "You two went down without much of a fight. This is really going to improve my WPM, which of course stands for witches per minute. Oh, forgive me for not introducing myself. Welcome to typing class. I'm your teacher, Mavis Beacon."
Oh my God. Oh my God.
"I thought you were just a myth," said Zatanna. "Oh, I'm too real," she said. "I'm the master of all forms of language-related magic, and the two of you have been really misbehaving, having a big superhero fight in a crowded downtown area like this. Shame on you. Back in the late 80s, I was like you, so I was placed under a curse for a couple decades where I had to design and host a series of popular edutainment CD-ROM games, and until the two of you have learned the tools that you need in order to survive in the adult workplace, you're gonna have to do less yelling and more spelling. I now pass my curse on to you. Each of you is going to have to design and be the host of a children's edutainment CD-ROM game."
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Advocates, what is the name of your game, and what sort of skills do you teach? Does your game have a story? And if so, how does the player use the skills that you're teaching them to overcome the challenges of that story? And finally, since we all know that the main game in these is pretty boring, what other sorts of bonus games or side features are there for you to explore and sharpen your skills further? Team Nico went first in the main rounds, so Team Zatanna will be going first in the lightning round. Team Zatanna, how many words per minute can you manage when you're typing backwards?
Nice.
All right, so our edutainment software is Magisoft Arcana 95. It's the demonic history, artifacts, runes, and basic spellcraft knowledge system.
You go through and you do some research, but there's also, if you're doing any sort of homework, obviously your parents are going to say "Oh man, just go look it up on Arcana. It's fine." But also it does have all those little hidden games and stuff if you go to tools or options. There's a trivia game in there, and you have to guess the correct answer. But obviously, if you don't get it right, it gives you kind of an option to try and make it up and still get the point. It'll highlight the correct answer, and then if you can type it backwards in 5 seconds, you can still get the point and move on to the next room.
But if you click on the wrong object, your sprite is possessed, or you have your Cheetos eaten by an ogre.
Yeah, it's magical objects are very dangerous, and we want to teach children, don't touch magical objects. So if your little sprite touches it, bad things will happen.
It also has an outfit designer and makeover program because Zatanna is a huge fan of her closet. If anyone's seen her closet, it is the size of our house.
Nice.
And it is 2 floors. There's actually like a staircase in there. So she wants to make sure that all of the aspiring wizards and witches out there can make their own spiffy working clothes like hers.
Oh, absolutely. And of course, in keeping with all of the 90s and the way that things worked back then, if you get to level 5, you can print out a coupon on your dot matrix printer. And then level 10 and level 15, and mail them in, kids, with your parents' permission to get cool prizes, like a backward baseball cap with Duncan, the Dunkaroo's kangaroo on it, and Surge brand pencil cases.
Act now.
Can I wear the baseball cap forwards?
No, you cannot. We are legally obliged to make you wear it backwards.
All right.
Thank you.
Well done, Team Zatanna. Team Nico, you tried to be logical, but being logical just keeps turning out wrong. So forget it. Just this once, say some dumb things. Say a bunch of stupid, dumb things and like it.
Well, that's good. I'm about to speak.
Yeah, what do you mean just this once?
I want that on a wall. That's so inspiring and hopeful and beautiful. Thank you, Claire.
So, our game is going to be called In the Nico Time. Birth, Life, and Death by Nico Minoru. The Cycle of Life. How to make the most of your life.
This game teaches a number of skills. We start off with Chapter 1, Birth. Chapter 1 was actually supposed to be Conception, but the publisher made us take that part out, so now it's Birth. We accepted that compromise, but then they wouldn't let us make the player crawl out of the womb from a first-person perspective. So Chapter 1 is actually now just a stock photo of a hospital and the sound of a baby crying. Chapter 2, right after Birth, Running Away, the player learns the various techniques using a series of timing and reflex games to run away without your parents catching you or calling the cops or whatever. And the faster you complete these puzzles and challenges, the younger your Nico is when she's able to run away. Chapter 3 involves learning the skills that school would have taught you, because you're not in school anymore, because you got out from under the thumb of those adults. The player goes through various foreign language games and fashion design games to try and learn everything on their own without the benefit of adult supervision. And then finally, Chapter 4 is death for other people. The puzzles and games actually get harder and harder as the game goes on until both the player and the character suffer a mental breakdown and in the game just start killing people. This is about the part where it would have become a sandbox murder game with very explicit gore, but they cut our funding at this point, and we just had to release the game as is.
And some challenges that we teach you to overcome are we give you real-life examples. Once you beat the game, you're given a pair of fishnets that are ripped. We teach you how to repair them. We teach you how to overcome your fear of blood and how to understand feelings in relationships.
Yeah.
So the ultimate goal, when you win the game, you're shown pictures of various objects. This is an exercise to work on your creativity. And you're prompted to caption them as if they were in a funny magazine. But actually, this goes to Nico's possible spell name databank as the evil overlord developer. And then, the grand prize. She picks who wins the captions, right? And all the kids are gathered into the football field, and there's a group of 10 on one side and a group of 10 on the other side. And then in the middle, the adults place, lead pipes, 2x4s, clay pots, and then they leave. And it's up to you and your creativity on how to solve that problem. This got really dark. Let's move
seriously.
on.
All right. Great job, everyone.
We're just oh.
You've given me lots to think about. I'm going to climb into this box here, and when you open it, you might find I'm not going to be there. But don't worry, I'll be back.
All right, which of us is going to open the box?
Are you Schrodinger's Claire?
Schrodinger's Claire.
Oh, that's cute.
Like, yeah, because that's actually true. Because, like, until we open the box, we don't know what decision she's
What's in
come
the
to.
box? Sorry. This was a really dark match. This was far darker than I thought it would be.
I mean,
Really? I didn't think it was that dark.
Nico's increasingly that. Although, man, I really don't know what the fuck this new Runaways series is. Bob, you've read it, right?
I mean, at least the first trade, and it was pretty good. It was alright.
It's garbage.
Well,
No, because Carolina and her have feelings.
Yeah, but it's all about them. They don't do anything superhero-y. They just go to school and
they
try to
have
find jobs.
Feelings, Miles. They have feelings.
I just talked about a kid's game that has a real life battle royale. This match is dark.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to figure out a kid's game that she would design at this point in her life. It's pretty rough.
Also, isn't all children's media children fighting to the death now? I thought that was what media was.
Yeah, basically.
I will say, though, like, of the two characters, there's only one who says girl up all the time.
That's true.
That's nice.
She says it multiple times throughout the thing. Also, she has sex with, like, 7 different dudes.
I will say one of the things I did like about the new Runaways run, there's the running joke that Nico, like, kisses everybody.
Yes.
She's kissed pretty much everybody on the team except Molly. And so at one point, Carolina's having trouble with her relationship with her girlfriend. She's telling Nico about it. And Nico, like, instinctually leans in to kiss her.
Yes, I love that part.
And Carolina's like, Nico, I have a girlfriend. Why do you always do this? And Nico's like, I don't know.
She's a player.
Nico has a lot of, like, I don't know, kissy feelings.
Yeah. I do want to thank you guys, though, for doing this match and for bringing Sharon into it, because she loved the Paul Dini Zatanna run so much that she's now talking about cosplaying Zatanna next time we go to con. So
Miles is happy.
Thank you to everyone.
Oh my god.
So, Bob, you read Runaways pretty recently, right?
I read the first arc.
Yeah, the first major
And
arc
then
with Alex and all
I
them.
own the second one, but I haven't read it yet.
Oh, you gotta read it.
And I was fine with whoever was doing it for Avengers Undercover, which I read.
I love Arena.
I actually only read the parts with Nico. I did not read anybody else's stuff. I was like, don't care. You're not Nico. You're not relevant to what I'm working on.
Avengers Arena is like one of my favorite comic stories. I really love Dennis Hopeless, the author.
Oh, okay.
His last name is Hopeless?
Yeah, his
I
last name is
know.
Hopeless.
It does seem to kind of, from what I was noticing, it's not quite as bullshit like grimness as Hunger Games. It seems to be more rich than that.
So there's a great line toward the end of it. It's like day 29 or like day 30, and Arcade is watching all this happen, and he's talking to like his assistant or whatever, and he's saying like, man, when I first started this, like, I was expecting fucking deaths by the dozen, and just like we'll get half of them knocked out on the first day. But no, it's been a slow burn, and they've all died these big, huge-hearted hero deaths. And it's been so good.
Oh my God.
Like, it almost felt like the author kind of praising himself for the work he's been doing. But for once, that shit felt earned. Like, I'm like, all right, Dennis, you can give yourself some props.
You're no longer hopeless. Oh,
he's so good.
Yeah. Oh, hi, Claire.
that was a pun.
This is a very close one. This is one, I could go either way on it. It's just sort of how much I value different factors, because you guys got some very solid hits against each other. There's a lot of really strong kind of unanswered points on both sides that I have to weigh now, This is one of the cases where Nico has a ton of potential to do stuff with magic, possibly more potential than Zatanna, and at the very least more willingness to use it to do violent things and to go to crazy extremes more quickly than Zatanna will. She's really unpredictable. There's clearly a lot of times, if you were to run a simulation where they fought 100 times, there are times where Nico's just going to come out of nowhere and just kill her. But also on the other hand, there's the times where Nico's spell doesn't work properly, or Zatanna tricks her because Zatanna's more experienced. And like a really good point was the idea that Nico can't practice her spells because if she practices it, she can't use it again. And Zatanna can do a spell over and over again until it's good and it's reliable. And if she's fought a lot of criminals like she has, she probably has some in her back pocket that she can use to quickly incapacitate people. And like with Nico, it's just a big roll of the dice of what she brings out, you know. The ruthlessness is a big thing, but she doesn't like kill people all the time willy-nilly. So to act like it's a foregone conclusion like that's what's going to happen in this fight, I'm not totally won over by it. Like I said, I'm not 100% sure on this. I feel like there are times when they get together where she's just going to go crazy and kill her out of nowhere. But I feel like if you run the simulation 100 times, more often than not, Zatanna, who's more skilled and more reliable and more consistent, is going to get the win over Nico, who kind of sometimes doesn't know what she's doing.
All right.
Damn.
Well, that's fair.
I agree with you.
I'm going to be murdered!
No, because I want to say, I think that in 10 years, when Nico's like 28, that Nico could probably kick her ass. But I
if
don't
she
think
hasn't exhausted all of her spells by then.
Yeah, this is true. Somebody will retcon something.
I am in no way ashamed to lose a magic duel to Zatanna. She's great. I may have been over-exaggerating Nico's evilness a little bit. Just a little bit. So it's fine.
Self-serving.
I was wondering, I was like, does she really rip people apart all that often?
It is crazy when she does it, though. She just makes the guy come apart.
You got a lot of points on that one. I will point that out.
I think the people who are writing her don't know how fucked up she is sometimes.
Yeah.
But excellently argued, my love.
Oh my god.
And Megan Bob.
You guys were so good.
Thank you, Sharon, for coming on again.
Thank you for
Yeah.
having me.
Appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much,
Thanks for
Sharon.
being
You're
my
awesome.
partner.
I will make it known now that, first of all, I am 0-2 in matches against Sharon.
Woo!
And also my league characters are now 0-2 in Smash Fiction matches.
Oh, that's right. Archer lost 2.
So yeah, I guess it's time for some sort of what would you guys call them?
Oh, let me take it from you. It's time for the kid thanks.
That was nice. I like that.
Adorable.
Over to Twitter. Thank you to Decade Fan, Jeff Rick Present, Meowingly, Andrew Young, Vander Turner, Crinch, Krista CS, Sean Boyd, Florian, Raphael Medina, Dark Cosplay Fiend, Cosplay Devotee, The Lawful and Orderly Podcast, Matias Tatimez, Robert Ramsey, Dandy Kidboy, and finally, what up, Mike Booch?
What up, Mike Booch?
All right, over to Tumblr, Sid Rabbit Blog, Jeep Rhyme, Fat Blunt 69,
Fat Blunt 69,
Secretly a Skeleton, Shh, and Half-Wit Half-Breed.
And over onto Facebook, thanks to Bradley Knoll, Tom Groh, Jeffrey Ketchum, and Hayden Reynolds!
And thank you to our patron this month, Dane Mills, who I decided to make into a witch, a dude witch, I imagine, with the name Dane. But in Charmed, even if you're a dude, you're still a witch. And you are a witch, or at least you were. Now you're a plant. So
Full plant.
And you could become a witch, or possibly a plant, or possibly something else if you go and support us on Patreon. I believe $1 a month is all it takes, right, to get a mention?
That is correct.
It is.
Yeah.
And also to get access to all of the beautiful bonus content that we have, many extra hours of content for your ears, including Extra League.
Yeah, well, you can listen to the bonus league episode. You could have been one of the people who helped vote our recent Maui versus Hercules match into being. So head on over to patreon.com/smashfictionpodcast to support this show. And thank you so much for doing so.
Thank you so much, everyone, for listening to this week's episode of Smash Fiction. Next week, we got a brand new episode of Collaboratory coming for you, and it's gonna be a good one.
Smash Fiction is produced by Miles Schneiderman and production assistant Sharon Schneiderman, with logo design by Claire Mulcairn.
Special thanks to Kevin MacLeod of the Clan MacLeod at Incompetech.com for our theme song, Hitman.
You can find us on Twitter at SmashFic Podcast and search for the Smash Fiction Podcast on Facebook, Tumblr, and YouTube.
Subscribe on Apple Podcasts or your podcatcher of choice, and if you leave us a good review, we shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
Smash Fiction is made possible thanks to our supporters on Patreon at patreon.com/smashfictionpodcast. Please consider donating as little as $1 each month. It helps us keep the show going. And we have great rewards and extra content for those who help us out.
If you have any suggestions, feedback, or other contributions, send them to us at smashfictionpodcast@gmail.com and help us continue the fight.
She does wear stilettos some of the time, it looks like, but I would not be wearing stilettos.
No. At a con, you might as well be like, you know what I'm really into? Foot torture. That's my real bag.
Right?
I didn't come here for any of the panels. I came here for very specific kink purposes.
Right? No, thank you. I like not having back and foot pain. Is that a kink? Because that would be my
Liking
kink.
to live in relative comfort and safety.
Birkenstocks.
Fucking weirdos. This is a club for you people.
Oh my god. It's called the Cozy Foot Club, where you just go, my feet and back don't hurt that much. This is pretty nice.
You know where the actor who played Doctor Doom in the first Fantastic Four movie got his start, Miles?
On Charmed.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Julian McMahon.